everybody. Here we go. First episode of M&M Question Everything. I am Matt, one of the M's. Mark's over there. He's the other M. Say hi, Mark.
What's up?
Oh, I thought you were going to say hi, Mark. That'd be funny. All right. Episode number 1. First one ever. So give us a break. This is all going to be new to us. We're going to go flying by the seat of our pants. Mark put pants on so we can fly by them.
That was not part of the agreement.
Okay, thank you. All right, first off, our website, it's question-everything.net. That's where you're going to find all information about how cool we are. You can find our sponsor information. You can listen to the show. You can read up on our cool guest that's here today. Eventually when I update the website, which will be later this week. All right. We want to talk about sponsors because we need money. If you go to our sponsors page, there's a donate button. You can hit the donate button and read all our funny, interesting donate levels. Click at least 50 cents if you're listening to the show and you like it even a little bit because every penny helps. There's also other links on that site. You'll see naturebox.com. Naturebox is a website where they deliver boxes of nature to you every month. You click on that link, you'll save $5 off your first NatureBox delivery. NatureBox is all healthy, GMO-free, gluten-free. Well, you can pick gluten-free. It's not all gluten-free. And trans fats free. So there's all good stuff in there. So sign up with naturebox.com by clicking the link on our sponsors page. Next, we have ting.com. Ting is a mobile service. They use the Sprint network, but they rent out space in the Sprint network, so you can get stuff for cheaper. You pay for what you use. If you don't use it, they drop you down to the lowest level, so you're not overpaying for anything. Click the link on our website, and you'll save $25 on your first month of Ting, or any new product you buy, any new cell phone you buy on their website. They use Android mainly, but they do have iPhones. They just started adding iPhone 5 to that list. And as every other podcast and website in the universe has, we have an Amazon link. Click the Amazon link on our website. Go to Amazon, buy anything and everything, and we get a kickback and keep the show going. We also take Bitcoin. There's a little button at the bottom of the screen. Click on that, and you can send us some virtual currency, and we'd love that. If you want to reach out to us, you can go to Meet the Guys on our website. There's our contact page. Fill out a little form. Tell us how cool we are. Tell us how much we suck, whatever you want to do. Just let us know. You can also reach out to us on Twitter, QuestionNet. We're at QuestionNet. So tweet us and say hi. I guess that's it, unless we have anything else. All right. Today we have with us the fantastic, the stupendous, the Renaissance man, Nathan Hunter. Hi, Nathan.
Hello. Good afternoon.
Thank you for coming here today.
Pleasure.
So we talked about what we were going to discuss earlier this week, and we kind of went over a few things we were going to talk about. We don't really have a real strict mode. We can be a little open source, a little open to whatever we want to really talk about. I queued up a couple videos I thought might be interesting to talk about. Disgusting surgeries, because I know you like talking about those. I've actually heard about this surgery, I think twice now. I've never actually watched the video of some gross kidney stone being removed, so we'll talk about that.
We'll do a live reaction video.
Yes, so stay tuned. And then there's some other cool stuff. We want to talk about vaccines. I heard a lot of interesting things going about vaccines going on lately. And I also heard about this new nano patch. Have you heard about the nano patch for vaccines? You have heard about that. Mm-hmm. Is this something they talk about in your classes, or is it just something you got your ear to the ground?
Yeah, something I look up in my own time.
Yeah?
Yeah, this is nothing that they would teach.
No.
Not at the level I'm at.
Okay. Give a little background on what you are doing currently, just so everybody knows what you what level you are at.
I'm in nursing school. I'm a year away from graduating. Went to college previously for physical therapy. I have a background, I played a lot of sports, a lot of fitness, a lot of nutrition. Done some personal training at different places throughout the years.
Like professionally, like you've done at gyms?
Yep.
That's cool.
Yep.
That's cool.
And, I'm not so young anymore, so I don't go the physical route anymore. So, it's more like trying to go back to school and get a lot of theory and see what I could do with that. And nursing, I felt, was a good place to start because it's very diverse. Mm-hmm. There's a lot you can do with a nursing degree.
Did you end result just stopping at nurse? Or are you looking at like doctor or anything past that?
Yeah, I mean it's a little early to tell, but I'm not the type that stays one spot for very long.
Sure.
So, you know, I feel right now that my 30s would probably be geared toward nursing, and then once that's over with, I will probably go back to school. I have right now no ambition to do medical school. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of time. I have a family.
Sure.
Not worth it. But maybe, you know, a PA or an MP, so that's a physician's assistant or a nurse practitioner. You're a mid-level practitioner. So you can diagnose, you can give medications. If you've ever been in the hospital, those are probably the people that you've seen.
Yeah, I think last
when
time
they see the
there.
doctors coming in, that's really the PA. You know, and they work for the physicians, and it's a 6-figure income with a master's degree.
Just a master's.
Yeah.
So you're not a doctor.
So yeah,
Yeah.
you're not an MD, but you do a lot less school.
Okay.
So
How long is like typical medical school? Is that 8 years? Because you get a bachelor's, master's, and doctorate, or PhD.
yeah, well, you gotta and then you gotta do your residency.
Jeez.
So it is a very long process. Yeah.
Well, they need it, I guess, because they're
Yep.
got the hands inside people's bodies.
Absolutely.
So I don't want some guy off
Yeah.
the street, unless he's Mexican. They know what they're doing. No, don't tell anybody I said that.
We'll edit that out.
No. Okay. So the nano patches, for anybody out there that doesn't know about nano patches, I think they're really cool. I stumbled upon them yesterday and looking around. They're basically just a new way to get stuff inside your body. Needles have been around for a long time, and they really haven't changed that much since the invention of a needle. It's just a metal tube that they stick inside your body. Maybe they've probably gotten smaller as technology.
They have different gauges.
You
You can think of it like a shotgun,
Okay.
right? You know, so you got a big gauge. If you have a larger size gauge, so if you have 18, that's bigger. The interior diameter is bigger than the like a 30 gauge needle. Okay. Same thing with shotguns. You know, 10 gauge, 22.
Do you know what the highest like
30
size
gauge.
is? Do they have like a
for needles?
yeah? I got my ears gauged. Like I had gauges in my ears, and they
Oh,
gauged
right.
it at I think 4 or 8.
You know, the biggest I've ever seen is like an 18.
Yeah.
They would maybe use you would use it for an intermuscular injection, like a flu vaccine, something like that.
Okay.
It's a pretty big needle, though. There's some medicines given to you intermuscularly post chemotherapy treatment that would be given in a big gauge like that, but mostly they're small gauge.
Like if you're giving blood, they're using a decent, like a really small, probably. It's not going to be that big just to give blood.
Right. A lot of them are IV catheters. So
Okay.
actually, so it's, you know, the needle makes the hole essentially, and then a plastic filter is put in to, you know, keep the vein open.
Yeah, even like a 14 is pretty decent size. You get a lot of flow through.
Yeah.
When I'd be puncturing people for IVs, 14 is a decent flow.
When you do it, is that what you said?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry, you have no context to my background. Yeah. So
I don't actually.
No, my father was EMT for a long time. My mother's a nurse.
Okay.
They were both in the Army as medics, and then when I went into the Marines, I did the combat lightsaber, which is essentially the infantry doesn't have
Did
medics.
you say lightsaber?
Lightsaber.
Okay,
It's
that
top
makes
secret.
sense.
No, lifesaver. So because the Marine Corps doesn't have medics, they just every like 4th infantryman, they just give you a medical bag, and the extent of your training is, hey, here's how you do an IV, and then this is how you do a sucking chest wound. All right, go. And then you're just off to war. That's all you get.
Wow.
So I have a med bag with like general patches for scrapes and cuts and whatnot,
Okay.
and then a whole bunch of 14 gauge needles, IV bags, and just plastic pieces for sucking chest wounds.
Wow.
So that
Maybe we should talk a little bit about Mark's background here. You were in the Marines.
Yep, I spent 5 minutes in medical school
5 minutes
to be a combat lifesaver. That was that's my medical background.
Have you actually used your experience in the field?
We did attempt certain things. I did plug people with IVs,
Mhm.
not because they needed it, just to learn.
Oh,
So
okay. So just sitting around the camp and just be like, can I put
Yeah.
this in you?
yeah, we had to do a physical fitness test, and of
Oh.
course, being Marines, people will be ridiculously hungover or still drunk. You know, wake up at 3 a.m. and go do the physical fitness test.
Yeah.
And then we did the combat lifesaver course right after that, so then we could plug IVs into people, replenish body fluids. It was a good setup.
Was it Arnold Schwarzenegger's physical fitness test? You got a little patch?
No, it was.
Does anybody remember those back in middle school?
Yeah, I do actually. President's.
I never got one of those patches.
The
Just
president's.
dated yourself.
I
fitness
did. I'm
award.
30 years old. I don't care. If I shave, I look like I'm 10, so it's okay. I never shaved, by the way. I've had a beard since I was 11. Okay. So Mark was in the Marines. That's pretty cool. Saving people's lives. Taking people's lives.
Exact opposite. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
The other way around.
He was the enforcer in the group.
But when you get thrown into the fire like that, you learn very quickly.
Yeah.
So you probably, after 5 minutes, we're no longer nervous. Or, or an hour or a day, or, because you get thrown right into it like that. Most people react.
Sure.
You no longer have time to think.
I have no experience like that. So
it is the opposite end of medical school. You got all the clinical setting. You go into residency, you do all the book stuff first, and do all the practice rounds. And my approach is always the exact opposite. Was non-clinical. It's just you're always in the filth. Everything's dirty. Nothing is sterile at all. And if there's a wound, you're taking a bottle of water out of your pocket and throwing it on the wound, drying it off with your sleeve. That's of course filthy, and then putting a dressing on it. So it's the exact opposite approach. The very roughshod.
Sure. And you were in Afghanistan?
Iraq.
Okay. They're close, right? They're neighbors.
Yeah. That's roundabout.
They're all Middle Eastern countries, whatever. I have no background on anything really. I mean, I went to marketing. I went to school for marketing. Just a little background. So I pretty much know nothing, or I know everything. Depends on how you look at it. But I don't know how to do any IVs or medical things. I've put a Band-Aid on before though.
Remarkably, when I go and give blood or have blood taken, they usually don't know how to give or take blood either. Yeah, it's the fun part.
Well, they give you juice really well though. Here's some cookies.
That's really why I go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They stopped paying for it. I would have gone once a week if they kept paying.
Fig Newtons is payment enough.
Strawberry ones though, at least, please. Okay, back on track. So, Nano. Would we talk about the Nano patch yet? No. Nano patch is a easier. I guess I don't know if it's still in research. I guess I don't think anybody's actually using it in real world applications. But it sounds exactly whatever it sounds like. That's what it is. It's a patch. It's nano. It's not the little barbs on it that inject the stuff that's in the injector are nano, so they're very small. And it's virtually painless, they say. I've never had it done to myself, but it's really a big difference in the way that vaccines are administered. That they're so like the thing from Star Trek where you see people getting the little they put it on your skin, and it's like, how come we don't have that yet? This is it. This is basically it.
So it's just a less invasive way to get medication into the body.
Yeah, we're gonna play this little clip here. I'm not gonna play the sound because you guys won't be able to hear it anyways. But it shows the guy actually applying this to his skin. He just grabs this applicator. It looks like a pen. Like if you've ever done or seen an injector of insulin, kind of looks like that insulin pen. Picks up this little patch off this little applicator. Puts it on his skin, presses a button on the back, or pushes it down, plunges it kind of, and the applicator looks like a little Band-Aid, kind of the size of a quarter, and then that's it. I mean, it's done. He says during the video he's talking about how it takes about a minute for everything to get into your system. You take the patch off and go about your day, and you got the vaccine ready to go, and you can reuse the applicator. Let's see, there's a picture. We're looking at a picture now of what under magnification it looks like. These right here, this is the barb from the nano barb that's on the actual patch. This is the top layer dead skin. The red is the dead skin. This is, what's the scientific term for the top layer skin? The epidermis? Is that just
epidermis? It looks keratinized as well.
Oh boy.
So it'd be like it's just like your if you have a
fingernails are keratin. Is that what you're talking about?
No. If you have like a rough spot, callus.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. And then whatever the purple stuff is, more skin. But they talked about in the video where they were discussing what the nano patch was good for is that the actual needle, like if you used a needle, it would go further down into your skin past all these layers, and it wouldn't even get to where this hits the spots where it needs to be more effectively than just a needle. Like the needle goes too deep, and this guy is like perfect spot. So it sounds really cool.
It would depend upon the rate of absorption that is needed for the given vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
So this is, you got really keratinized skin, and then you got the first layer. The purple is just a dye that they do in the lab.
So
We're
it's
gonna
just
dye it.
regular skin. It's
Mhm.
the same as,
That's your endothelial cells and your first layer of skin.
mm-hmm.
So it's just barely in. It's not very deep at all. You don't see any blood. It's not vascularized at all. So it is very superficial. I don't know a lot about this because it's new technology.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how some things can be given topically, which is basically what this is, to subcutaneous, which they're going to give just a little deeper into your fat cells, or intermuscular, which you're going to give even deeper, and it reaches the deepest tissue, your muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Depending on what they need to give and how they have formulated that vaccine, it depends on the route and the depth that they're going to give it.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to learn a little more. Maybe, in the whatever time, weeks, months, years, when this gets, to formulate new things like this, there's a lot of red tape that you have to go through, FDA approval. So I don't know if they're that far yet.
Mm-hmm.
But
so there's certain vaccines that this wouldn't work for because they have to go to the intramuscular.
well, I mean, like a flu vaccine. It is still, there's not a whole lot of things given intermuscular anymore, but that would be one of them. And yeah, it is a deeper injection.
That is not a dynamic with the FDA. Like you see something like this that might be useful immediately, and much less invasive, much more infrequent use of needles, which again reduces your chances of cross contamination. Nurses hitting their own finger with the needle, that kind of thing. So this could help people out right now. And as the FDA, you have to look at this as just a safe technology to use. We have to test it. And that's the upside of it. The downside is, what if your testing takes 10 years? So that 10 years in between, like whether it's a prescription drug, whether it's a method of application, a process used in the hospital, you have to also look at, all right, if we're going to say you're not allowed to use this till we give it a go-ahead, all right, how long is that? Like how many people in that 10-year span are now going to forego this better technology for using the old technology because it's just not got approval yet?
Mm-hmm.
I know someone, a good friend of mine's stepfather, and it's a little difficult to follow, but his cousin is a chemical engineer, I believe at UCLA. And it's been about 5 years ago. His wife has cancer. It's terminal. She asks him to take a look at it. He takes a look at her results and everything, not from a medical doctor standpoint, but from an engineer standpoint. Studies chemotherapy and how it's presently given, and determines that one big side effect of chemotherapy is that it isn't contained in the cells. It can pass in and out of your cell, and that's what causes a lot of the nausea, vomiting, malaise, the general you don't feel well feeling. So he combines a sugar molecule and adheres it to the chemo so that it stays inside a vein, so it can be targeted to a tumor or whatever his purpose is. That was 5 or 6 years ago. And he sent out a DVD, and I got one, and it was strictly for funding. Like, this is what we're doing. And then he had sent one to his cousin, and that's how I saw it, and he got us all involved. And he said there's about a 10-year process to go through and get this approved, even though it's working for us now in the lab. There's labs, there's research, there's human clinical trials that have to go on. It's going to be 10 years earliest before we can get this out mainstream.
And there's good and bad to that, I guess, because there's some people that could make something that would hurt people, and they need to test it. So,
Well, this ties into your topic today on vaccines.
Mm-hmm.
You have a lot of celebrities. You have people out there, non-celebrity and celebrity alike, who say that vaccines cause autism or cause all these other problems from these vaccines. and you got to have your research and all your ducks in a line and your paperwork to back it up if you're going to release something like this, because it could be catastrophic.
Yeah, there's not really much research that I found on linking autism with vaccines. I mean, there's lots of people talking about it, but I really didn't see anything concrete that said we did this study for 10 years and this is what happened. It's really more of just like, my kid has autism, he got vaccinated, must be vaccines.
Yeah.
Like, people want something to blame, it sounds like, almost.
Definitely. It's very hard on parents.
Yeah, autism's very tough. I mean, I worked with kids with autism for a long time, and it's not an easy thing because nobody really understands it. It's such a isolating disorder, I believe. So it really isolates everybody around them, not just the person inflicted with the disease.
Yeah, I actually see two separate groups that kind of collaborate on the anti-vax thing. There is the group that has the suspicions over autism and anybody on spectrum, and blaming various vaccines. And then the other half of the vax group has nothing to do with autism necessarily. It's just a matter of they don't understand why they're being forced to vaccinate. So, like, if you want to look at it from all right, if I get this vaccination, then I won't have to deal with this disease later in life. And the flip side of that coin is, I don't think I'm going to deal with that disease anyway. And if it's my body, my risk, whether or not I get it, it should be my choice whether or not I get vaccinated. Yeah. So, one part of the anti-vax, group, have that frame of mind, have that thinking of, my body, my choice. And then you have situations where, all right, now you have a whole group of people that are not vaccinated. And then you have an outbreak. A disease pops up somehow, somebody gets it, and then it's able to spread and jump from person to person. Now you have a resurgence of some long dead disease, long dormant, that pops back up again. So then you have this dynamic where, as a society where you can vote or you can dictate laws to other people, are you going to force people to take a vaccination into their body because you, democratically or dictators or whatever your form of government is or governance? You're going to tell people you will take this chemical, whatever it is, this vaccination, this, antibodies or whatever. You will take this into your body whether you like it or not. And the argument is for the good of everybody. But then is it at the cost of personal freedoms and your freedom of choice over your own body? So there's the medical side where you're going to try and make an argument of, all right, this vaccine causes this disorder or this whatever. And then there's the other side to that group of just plain, you can't make me. Go ahead and try.
Stubborn kid, yeah. I'm sure Nathan released that a little bit. Little babies in the house. You tell somebody that they can't do something or they have to do something, then, human nature is like, well, I'm going to do it anyway. Screw you guys.
Yeah.
And that's silly, but I guess that's how people feel. I mean,
it's the pushback syndrome.
Yeah.
Look, if I tell you got to go to a certain church, drive a certain car.
Yeah, fuck you.
Go to a certain doctor.
Yeah.
I get it. But some of these, we eradicated
polio. Yeah.
Do we still vaccinate for polio?
Yeah, I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
When's the last time anybody had polio, though? Is that because of vaccines, or is
Absolutely. Yes. So many people are protected against it that these are things that need hosts to live. So without hosts, they don't live. They become weeded out, essentially. Okay. There's a few other things, too, that have gone that same route. Excuse me. But all it takes is, I think, like what Mark said, there's people that, I guess I see it as this. There's places in the world, third world, that aren't as advanced, don't have the resources that we have, that these things could crop up and be a problem in. Yep. And then there's also bioterrorism. If half the people in America reject these vaccines,
are we then more susceptible to
smallpox? They still have smallpox. They have to have it to make vaccines. They have lab cultures in labs, various places, and that's what bad people do. They break in, they find a way to get it, and all they have to do is, and it's smallpox can be aerosolized. It means it can be shot in the air and
very famously
everybody get it.
the U.S. had our cultures, smallpox cultures, that we would do the vaccines with and make them. And then back in the 80s, the Iran-Iraq War, we very infamously, it was secret back then, not so secret now, that we gave those cultures to Saddam Hussein in Iraq to assist in his fight with Iran.
Okay.
But the understanding was we would give them rifles to fight with and then these cultures to make vaccines with. But almost as soon as we gave it to them, they did not make vaccines. They made weaponized chemical and biological weapons, aerosol, like you said. And then they started wiping out whole swaths of Iranian troops in the Iran-Iraq War. So you do have to be extremely careful with those kinds of things. So those they do exist in the world. And that's something you can't wish that away. I mean, if we had wizards, maybe we could just make this stuff disappear. But I mean,
is smallpox something that we could actually get rid of? Like, if everybody that owned the cultures decided they'd get together and say, we're going to destroy our cultures, so we can't weaponize it, we don't have it, it's gone. Is it ever going to be gone?
Well, this is the problem. I'm 90% sure on this, although
It's on the record,
I'm
folks.
pretty sure that they don't vaccinate for it anymore because it is eradicated. It is. There's not been an outbreak. There's not been a case since the 80s.
Okay.
I believe the 80s. So, but it doesn't mean that it still isn't out there.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that they don't if you don't have cases for it, they're not going to keep vaccinating.
You have to look at the cost of these things, and there's both a material cost of it, where you got to think about you have to purchase everything it takes to make that vaccine. You have to purchase the man hours to administer the vaccine. Yep. You have to bring the kids in when they're young or whatever. And then there's also the human cost of, what are the chances your body's going to reject whatever just got put into it. Mm-hmm. And even though you're talking about small statistics, like it's, 1/1000th of the population, well, when you go to the doctor and that kid gets injected and that kid has a severe reaction, then you got to think about, all right, was it worth it for that kid to have that severe reaction and either die or come close to death on the oddball chance that at some point there might be a smallpox outbreak?
Yeah, so it looks like we stopped doing vaccines for smallpox in 1972 after it was eradicated in the United States. It's from the Center for Disease Control and Prevention website. After September 11th, we started getting our shit together just in case. So we're ready to vaccinate. We have stockpiles of vaccine for every person in the United States in case of a smallpox emergency. So that's good to know.
Yeah, and smallpox, the way its pathogenicity works, its virulence, how it works, you can get it and get vaccinated.
So it's curable, obviously.
It is curable.
Yeah.
Well, it's curable with a vaccine. It's not curable.
Not curable.
So if you have it and you're diagnosed in that small frame of time, you can get a vaccine. Vaccine works quickly, and you'll have no symptoms. You'll be fine.
Similar to like getting bit by a venomous snake. And if you, in the window of time you get the anti-venom, you could have both inside your body and counteract each other.
Oh.
Yep, just like that.
And you can't. What the nano patch would not work with this one because it needs a bifurcated needle, 2-pronged. For those people that don't know in lingo, I just read that word for the first time ever. So sorry, nano patch.
Yeah, actually, that's an interesting way that is administered. I actually got this vaccine.
Yeah.
Before shipping out to Iraq, we got many vaccines. They take this pronged needle, or like you were talking about, and it's not like the subcutaneous, like the big gauge needle where they shove it down in your body and inject it. In fact, what they do is it's on the surface itself, and they take that forked needle and they dip it in the bottle of vaccine, and then they just repeatedly stab your skin. And it sounds ridiculous, but they take the 2 prongs and they draw a little circle. The point being that then they could see that, and I still have the scar on my shoulder, it will scar your body, and they'll see, like, depending on the shape they draw on your skin, they'll be able to tell whether or not you've been vaccinated. So I have a circular scar on my shoulder where they just repeatedly stab me with this forked needle with smallpox vaccine.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
Yeah, like my mom, my aunt, you could probably look in your mom. They'll have that.
Because they used to do it. They didn't stop until 1972. So anybody before 72, you guys got scars on your arms.
Oh, I remember as a kid seeing it. It's a scar. It's not small. It's not pretty. It's pretty invasive.
Wow. Well, geez. Nobody attack us with smallpox. I don't want a scar on my arm.
I don't mean to, I don't like to live in fear like that, but I feel it's a legitimate concern.
Yeah, it's easily spread.
And
if it's just,
as Mark said, people have done it before. They've weaponized it. It's not like nobody's ever done it.
Yeah.
Wasn't there in Libya? Wasn't that what happened earlier or last year? Was that Libya?
They did have Libya's an interesting case. When we invaded Iraq the second time, essentially what we did was we went to every country in the area and we said, hey, look what we're doing over here. You're next or else. And Libya and Gaddafi chose the or else, which was give up all of their weapons of mass destruction programs, which they had. And they voluntarily gave them up and then opened them up for inspection. So Gaddafi gave up his chemical and biological weapon stockpiles, and then he gave up all the equipment that he could use to generate new stockpiles. And then he opened himself up for repeated weapons inspections. So he voluntarily disarmed himself in the interest of his own longevity, which, as you can now tell, was not in his best favor because he no longer exists.
He's dead now. That's a pretty intense video watching him die. Not to bring it down or anything. Not to bring it down. Well, actually, Gaddafi being dead is probably a good thing, right? I mean, he was a dick.
It depends who
he
you
was a
ask.
dictator, right?
It depends who you ask.
Dictator.
Sorry.
The
The Africans loved him because he was one of the forerunners of the African Union. He was one of the few countries left in Africa that had a centralized bank that was not part of the Western banking system. So most countries run off of the dollar standard, U.S. dollar standard, unless you're Japan, China, Russia, Germany. But in Africa, you never had an option of borrowing money from anybody that was in Africa. So Gaddafi, using his oil wealth, bought just gold bullion and sat on bars of gold and was able to use that to create a central bank in Libya. And he loaned money to other countries in Africa and said, hey, we're all in this together. Let's make an African Union. Let's borrow from each other. Let's not borrow from Europe or America or anybody else. So to a lot of Africans, Gaddafi wasn't such a bad dude. I mean, there was people within his country that thought he was a bad dude because they were being killed by him. But as far as the West was concerned, he was a useful pawn for a short time until he was no longer of use. Then he disappeared.
Well, not really finding anything about anybody who recently used smallpox, who recently weaponized it.
Go back to your original question, though. It's like, can we ever actually get rid of these things? I mean, there are various forms. I mean, chemical weapons can spread easily, can be spread and weaponized, but there's a lifespan to it, if you want to look at it like that. The chemical itself is not going to be alive, but it will disperse over time in the ecosystem. Remember, like third grade ecosystem with the water cycles. Eventually, chemicals and nuclear contaminants will get washed through. Now, like radiation is the longest lasting one, but chemical weapons will get dispersed in the air if they're aerated, or if they're liquid, they can get washed into our water table and eventually cycled through. They'll get caught up in the sand and the silt and those things. The bio ones are kind of tough because there's things, dysentery. Dysentery, once you get it into an ecosystem, it's just going to be there, period. You would have to literally you'd bring out that soil from the system and scrub everything. Because once dysentery gets into the ecosystem, the microbes, the animals, the people, it's just going to keep getting passed around and cycled. So there is a way, like if you stop doing chemical weapons, you stop making them, you destroy what you had, like that would be it. So long as you didn't make new ones, it would just be gone. The bio stuff is much more difficult because it can evolve over time. It can slightly mutate from person to person. Diseases can jump, like you have avian bird flu, swine flu, those kinds of things, where one genetic mutation and everything you did to prevent it before and it worked is now absolutely useless.
Yeah, it's life itself. Life is ever changing and evolving and adapting. The flu vaccine that you get, if you get one every year, you're only getting 3 or 4 strands. It's what the CDC has determined is the most prevalent that year, because that's how interchangeable it is. Change a couple proteins on the outside of that cell, and that virus is a new virus. So it's incredibly hard to vaccinate. But could you stomp it out permanently? No, probably not.
No,
probably not. No, I mean, there's so many factors to it. There's if you don't take your antibiotics every day for the course of the treatment, if you got a 10-day script and you take it for 8 days, all you've really done is knocked off the weaker strands of that bacteria that's inside you. Just like people, Bacteria, same thing. There's strong ones and weak ones, and they pass information to each other incredibly easily. It's really just looks, if you ever look at it on a microscope, two cells, like a stick in between, they join. I believe it's called a pili, and they share genetic information. That's how quick it spreads. That's why they're so hard to stomp out.
It's just like the Matrix. You plugged in the machine, you download Kung Fu. Same thing, that the two cells download instantaneously to each other.
It is. Once they figure out how they're getting killed, they pass that information amongst each other, whoever's alive. And then the future is no longer susceptible to that. That's microbiology, like in a little nutshell.
I've seen a lot of interesting things about antibiotic resistant bacteria.
Sure.
That the more we use antibiotics, the less effective they're becoming, and we have to change it.
Sure.
Our thought process is changing quite a bit on biotics, whether it's anti or pro or pre. And people are finding out more and more about it. The more research they do, the more they're finding about all the tens of thousands of flora you have, both internally and externally in your body. And it used to be an idea, we thought of it as kind of like, being dirty. So if you wipe out all the biome, like you're going to be healthy and clean. We're finding out that's actually not the case. We require all this different flora inside of us working as a symbiotic relationship to keep us healthy. So the more we do like a huge, strong antibiotic wash, like you go to the hospital and they're like, all right, I'm going to give you some antibiotics, and they hook you up to the IV and they wipe your system. Like, you're not going to be good for a while. You got to have time to rebuild the good bacteria you have in your body. And if you just do a clean slate wash, you're actually going to do quite a bit of damage, which is why they really hold off on doing the strong antibiotic washes, or wipes or washes, if you want to call it.
Because you can't target just the bad guys.
Exactly.
They're getting everybody. And when they give you antibiotics, it's killing all your bacteria that is in that area. I mean, is there two kinds? Okay.
There's two kinds. You got broad spectrum and narrow spectrum. So that, in narrow, it'll focus on what it needs to kill. A broad spectrum will wipe out good and bad flora or bacteria. My daughter had an ear infection. They're going to cure that with a broad spectrum antibiotic. She takes it. It also knocks out the good flora on your skin. So she's a baby. She wears a diaper rash, which is yeast. Yeast is an opportunistic pathogen. So and there's nobody else competing for that same space, essentially, it takes over. So there's two different kinds of antibiotics, broad spectrum and not broad spectrum, but some of these are so strong and so resistant, and they're learning at such a rate that we are running out of antibiotics that can kill them. MRSA, methicillin resistant Staphylococcus aureus. Staphylococcus.
God bless you. Sorry.
On your skin at all times. Everybody has it all the time. You got it. He got it. I got it. But
I don't got it.
Yours is not necessarily good for him.
So we're not going to make out later.
Well,
let's not get ahead of ourselves.
That's off.
Nathan's going to leave.
it depends on how broad the
Mark, put
spectrum
your
is.
pants on.
Later.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So and now he got Versa, which is like the next.
I haven't even heard of that.
thing. Yeah, it's
an upgrade.
vancomycin. So you get a stronger antibiotic, a Vanco, and now the staph is becoming resistant to that. It knows how to defeat it. So
I heard there's I heard super gonorrhea.
Super gonorrhea.
He knows
Super
all about
gonorrhea,
it.
wow.
Yeah. So
yeah, vodka takes care of that.
vodka?
Yep.
Oh.
Let's hopefully. I don't know.
Like you drink it or you pour it on your genitals?
All the above.
Can it be both?
All the above.
I actually
Sounds like a good night.
Jeez, Marine Corps stories. I did know a Marine that went to an unnamed Eastern European nation and found a lady of the night. Tried to use a contraceptive, was not successful.
What?
And then tried to use hard liquors, and then when ran out, just came down to beer washes on his genitals. Now, hearing him tell the story is hysterical because I wasn't participating, so it's funny for me. The look on his face was just sheer terror.
Did he actually have something, or you just thought?
No, luckily he got away with it. But before they let you go, like if you're on a base or on a ship or something, before they let you out into the world, you have to go through sexually transmitted disease training, which is just a slideshow of infected human genitals.
Ooh.
So
I'd
every
probably do the
single
trick.
disease,
Let's bring those up.
every single disease that you can get, that you can visibly see, if it's not even a disease, like anything, ailment, skin condition, anything. And I forget what the actual medical term was, but there was one that was just called like the blackberry of death.
I got to look for that. I'm sorry. I don't want to gross people out, but I have to know.
Well, luckily our listeners can't see it, but
I'll put a picture on the website.
so they would go through this slideshow in hopes of just scaring you into not actually going out into town and participating in any kind of illicit activities.
I don't think that. I don't like blackberries, but I don't think that's it.
Well, blackberries are dying.
But
Nobody's buying them, right?
a BlackBerry of death Google search for images brought up the actual
telephone
so
system, yeah.
maybe it's this inside information that we're not.
Yeah,
privy to.
that is not a textbook term. That was just what it looked like on the slideshow.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, I'm not going to just put in weird genital malfunction. I'm not going to do that. People look at my search history and I'll get in trouble. I want to go back to some interesting things about vaccines that I found. I was doing just a cursory like Google search and put in like, why should I not get vaccines, just to see what those, I don't want to call them kooks, but some of those weirdos out there are talking about. I'm not pro or con vaccines. If I had a kid, they'd get vaccinated because that's just what you do, you know. But I don't really like to take a stance on. I mean, unless it's personally affecting me, I don't really want to say.
You don't want to judge them.
Yeah,
You don't want to judge them.
I don't want to judge. Yeah, open-mindedness,
Mhm.
I guess. But there's one website I went to that talked about why not to get vaccines. They talk about whooping cough, and the one fact that they put on there was that between 1900 and 1935, mortality rates for whooping cough dropped by 79%. But they didn't create the vaccine for whooping cough until 1940. They didn't give any information on why it came down. They just kind of like regurgitated this fact, which I thought was interesting that a vaccine wasn't even invented yet, but the death rates have dropped down so much during that time. So they kind of just gave it highlighted, well, you don't need vaccines because nobody died during that, or the mortality rates came down, so why do we need the vaccine? I guess was there.
There's traditional ways of fighting diseases that are pre-vaccine. Like there's quarantine.
Yeah.
There's different
There's a lot of things
physical
going into that.
barriers and methods you could use.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I think it's thieves' oil is what it's called. Back in the days of the plague, people came up with a concoction they could rub on their skin, and they didn't really have an understanding of how or why it worked. All they knew was it worked. But you rub the oil on your skin, and it would prevent you from getting infected by the plague. So these guys that could go into the homes and take out the dead bodies, they had to figure out ways of like, how do you do this without dying yourself? And they figured out a way, but it also came down to people would use it to steal stuff from the homes. People died in the plague. So what they stumbled upon was a collection of oils, just natural oils from plants and things, that if you combine them and rub it on your skin, it would close off all the pores so that no microbes could infect you. So they would put a face mask on and put this oil over their skin, and they would go in and steal things. Well, Catholic Church found out about it, and they said, we'll make you a deal. Show us how you're not dying, and we'll not kill you for being thieves.
Uh-oh.
And so that's how, one of the ways that we started to learn how microbes work and how to prevent that spread of disease. So they didn't have a vaccine against the plague, but they found a way to not die from the plague.
Mm-hmm.
So if you apply other methods, it's not necessarily a vaccine or nothing. So these anti-vax folks, they can do other stuff to prevent the spread of disease and whatnot. And it's not a black or black or white, yes or no answer to purely vaccine or not.
So there's a lot of things that this just saying this doesn't cover.
Yeah, that doesn't
even half of what needs to be talked about.
It doesn't necessarily disprove at this point in time they didn't die from this disease, so clearly vaccines are useless. That's not.
Sure.
That's a loaded. It's a loaded bunch of.
It's kind of just
arguments.
like a buzzword soundbite kind of thing that people would throw
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
Sure, it's a quick point to throw out there in your favor.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even if you look at just movies that are based in that time period, The Godfather, they come to America. I think he had whooping cough. I don't remember the movie specifically, but they put him in quarantine because they'd figured out at that time that it was spread person to person through aerosolized through secretions or whatever.
right.
So if you separated people, that it wouldn't get such a pandemic rate. You could could slowly kill it off. Like
Absolutely.
I said, it needs hosts to live in,
Okay.
and so it depends on the virulence of the pathogen. If you seclude it and treat the symptoms, your body might be able to kill it. Some things are stronger, some things kill you. It really depends. And the other point, about vaccines and everything, when you talk about microbiology, you never want to say everyone, because everyone's different. Everyone's the same, essentially, but microscopically, everyone's a little bit different. So if it works on 8 out of 10 people, then that's a high success rate.
That's good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
So and that's where we come from. I mean, a lot of people now, there is a risk. I mean, it is a calculated risk, but it's a risk that you're injecting whatever it is into your body.
Yeah, some of the controversial ingredients, which are mainly preservatives, you probably heard about some of these things, where it'd be mercury, aluminum, formaldehyde, are being in our vaccines because they don't have a long shelf life, so they have to have preservatives in there.
Right.
But these are kind of bad things. Like you've always heard mercury poisoning and aluminum.
Yep.
People get freaked out about aluminum being in their deodorants.
Right. But they drink out of cans.
Yeah.
They eat tuna fish
true.
out of a can.
And
All
that has
have
mercury and
extremely higher
aluminum.
rates than you'll ever get in one attenuated
So that's
viral
just
vaccine.
we don't need to worry about those things.
or bacterial vaccine. Yeah.
Okay.
No, I mean, if you look at the specifics of what composes that vaccine,
Mm-hmm.
the mercury levels are going to be minimal, as opposed to the can of tuna that you open up and make tuna fish with.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's probably tenfold the amount of mercury in that, as opposed to. But my feeling is when it happens to your kid, as a parent, first of all, you get mad. How could this happen? I trusted you to take care of my kid. Now something's wrong. And, you're to blame. You gave him this injection. This is and there's really not any science behind it. You know what? If it were proven that vaccines were not good, if they cause these things, my kids wouldn't get vaccinated. Plain and simple. Their health is number one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But I haven't seen that.
That is, I mean, as a parent though, if you knew going into this, you did your research, you're going to bring your kid in for smallpox vaccine, and you knew there's a statistical chance, like even if it was 1 in 1,000, 1 in 10,000, you knew there was a chance she was going to have a severe reaction. You have to go into that making that calculation already. So you're thinking, well, I hope my kid's in the 99.9 percentile, but what if she is that like 0.001 where she's going to have a severe reaction to this?
Yeah, and there is she's 2. My youngest is 2. She's had every vaccine up to date. It's comprehensive. There's quite a few. You get the documentation, you do your research, there is a chance that she could fall into that slight range of having a reaction. What part of life isn't a gamble?
Right.
If you went to Vegas and I told you had a 95% chance of, winning $1 million or whatever, you take those odds.
Yeah.
And I feel that's the same way with her longevity.
Right.
She has 95% chance that this is going to help her longevity.
I think playing the odds is a good comparison, because if I looked at 2 parents, they each had a kid the same age, old enough to be vaccinated, and one parent says, I think it's such a small chance that my kid's going to have a reaction to that vaccine that I think we're playing the numbers game correctly if I'm going to make a bet, this 1 in 10,000 bet, that my kid's not going to have the reaction, and they go ahead with that vaccination. And then the other family says, you know what, I think there's a 1 in 10,000 chance she'll ever even be exposed to this disease. So I'm going to take that bet, and I'm going to play the numbers that way. I'm not going to tell either one of those parents that they're wrong. Everyone's playing a numbers game. Everyone's going to make a gamble. And it's just in terms of if it's your family, it's your kid, it's your body, which gamble do you want to make? And as an outsider looking in, if that's not my kid and it's not my body, how am I going to look at either one of those parents and tell them, no, you're wrong? And if you don't do it the way I see it, if you don't do it the way I tell you to do it, then somehow you're a wacko, you're a kook, or you don't care about your kid. Yeah, I'm not going to take that responsibility myself to tell them to go one way or the other.
So what is the why? I don't know if you've had these come up, but what is, if you don't get your kid vaccinated, what's the downfall besides being exposed to disease? What, like socially, Is it like, is there a legal, can you get in trouble, a fined? Is there, what's?
Yeah, well, I mean, first of all, you're now at a huge risk of contracting that disease.
Sure.
Right.
Something you travel, like we discussed previously. I mean, that's the significant risk. Second, there are some. I had a friend in middle school who wouldn't, I don't know why, but his mom didn't get him vaccinated for whatever reason. It wasn't her stance. It was just she forgot about it or was lazy or whatever the case was. And then he was like a month late. He was not allowed to attend school for a month.
Sounds awesome. If I was that kid, I'd be, I don't want vaccines.
Well, that poses significant restrictions to a person's life. For instance, meningococcal shots. I forget what the stages were. I think I had like, is there a series of 3 or
Yep.
2?
3.
I think like I had like 2 out of the 3 or something, and it just the scheduling wasn't working out with my doctor.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually almost didn't get to go to my freshman year of college because they were like, "Look, you need that last shot, or you cannot come here."
Mm-hmm.
So to me, it was kind of silly. I'm like, well, I don't have meningitis. Like I'm scheduled to get the shot in a few weeks. Can we just be cool about this? And their reaction was essentially no.
Mm-hmm.
Like for them, they didn't want the liability. So, and again, I had no way of knowing like was I actually a carrier, and I just wasn't, full blown infected.
Right.
And what are the chances of me or someone else there is a carrier? I go in without my series of 3, and then that carrier who did have their series of 3 and they're good, they infect me, and now I die. Now the school is going to get sued, because I got exposed to that disease when I attended.
And something like that is a quick killer. You're dead. You're dead like in 24 hours if it's in you, and you don't get to emergency services or whatever. It has like I believe like a 24-hour turnaround to where you're dead. So stuff like that, that's a huge concern to you, your health, your longevity, and to the population of the school who has the financial and I guess ethical.
Sure. And I do know families that both have vaccinated and non-vax families. I've seen both. And there is the issue with the non-vax kids that when it's time for gatherings like the holiday season, you get a bunch of people together, that non-vax family, if you are sick and you let them know, oh yeah, I'm fighting this flu or whatever right now, they might say, probably not going to participate then. We're just not going to come. Like, we'd like to see everybody, but, if you're fighting a disease, then we're just going to not participate in that.
I have family that has not vaccinated their kid yet at all with anything. And this is their personal stance that they're not going to inject these harmful things into their kids, and I think into their kid. And I mean, I guess I don't see it that way. I can't, you could die walking down the street. You can all these other things that you can take to prevent that. I don't understand. I don't understand why you ignore them. Largely vaccines now are inactivated. So they've isolated some proteins on the outside of a pathogen. They extract them, they kill them, and they inject you with them. So not only are you not getting the complete pathogen, you're only getting a part of it, they've killed it. Mm-hmm. And when they inject it into you, your body recognizes it, kills it, and then now every time you come in contact with that, your body has the antigens to fight it. That's how vaccinating works.
So it basically just makes a file in your system that says this: if this comes into our body, this is how we fight it. This is okay,
right? Yep. And there's way like I saw recently a study. They said like if your kid drops his pacifier, rather than rinsing off in the sink and give it back to him, if you put it in your mouth and then give it to them, the antibodies in your body, in your saliva that are active, if you give that to them, and we were talking about flora before, you could influence their flora by sharing yours with your kid. Now, your genetics are so close that you're already sharing a lot. You're existing in the same space. You touch all the time. You're in the same environment. Like your DNA is their DNA. So there's a lot of things that are similar already. So if you pass the active antibodies that you have in your saliva into theirs, it's almost like giving them a step ahead in life. Like they don't have to learn those antibodies over the years if you just give it to them right off the bat. So that improves their chances of cutting down on things like allergens, having severe like hay fever, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I had a friend that I had a friend once. I don't anymore. A friend when I was a kid, and they had a large family. It was like 8 kids in the family, all age range from like 2 and up to like 18, and they never got sick. Like they would get sick, but it would go through the entire family in a week, and then it would be done. And they like just seemed healthier, like because they didn't. And then you have a family that has 1 kid, and they get sick, and it's like a month.
Yeah.
It's just like sharing the bacteria, I guess, or not being like crazy freaks about, oh my gosh, I need to take care of, or wash everything and make everything perfect, and this little sanitized area where the kids don't, I guess, build the immunity to certain things and things like that. So
again, it's going back to that. I know families that are vaccinated and those that are not, and whenever one kid gets sick, if you have a family, everyone's getting sick. Kids are gross. They touch everything on themselves. They touch everything in their environment. They just sneeze in your mouth. Because kids are great.
Stay away from those kids.
So
I mean, sneezing in your mouth.
If you have a family, even if you have 2 people living together, like if one person's sick, you're gonna be sharing germs. It's just gonna happen.
Yeah.
Like period.
Yeah.
And there's a lot to be said for challenging your immune system, because you can ward off a lot. I mean, you ward off so many things every day. You don't even know. I mean, hundreds of attacks probably every day, and I guess it's one of my concerns about working in a hospital is every time you go in and out of a patient's room, you need to sanitize your hands. And then sometimes you got to wash and sanitize. In and out, in and out, in and out. Every day.
Yeah.
I don't know, 100 times a day. So it really decreases the bacteria on your skin.
That's semi-new. I mean, the hand sanitizers, I haven't really seen those in hospitals. I mean, it's probably been 10 years or something like that, but I don't know if there's any studies on how that affects patients. I mean, obviously, getting your hands clean is good. Sanitizing is good.
So a hospital, I mean, people go there because they're sick. It is a collection of, it's a dirty place, right? The alcohol, I'll give you some broad strokes here. The alcohol is going to take off the bilayer, the outer layer of a virus. It really does nothing in the way of killing bacteria because it doesn't have the same outer lipid bilayer. So viruses and whatnot get stripped by the alcohol because it dehydrates them instantly. Same way when you drink too much alcohol, dehydrates you. You know what I mean?
You can't handle your alcohol. I can handle my alcohol.
That's not what I heard. So, yeah, I mean, but, every time you have patient interaction, like in nursing school, they talk about the earliest nurses, like in Civil War, they take off their gown and stand it in the corner. It's like an outer shield, okay? It's like almost like you put on when you bake, whatever that's called.
Apron.
Yeah. They take the apron off, and it would stand in the corner because it's so blood drenched.
Yeah.
Oh, it would like physically.
It would physically stand,
Yeah.
and then the next day they get up and they put it on, and they go back to amputations.
Right.
So you do it in and out because you're seeing patient to patient to patient, and like we just discussed, staff is just one, but it is a very strong one. Yours may not mesh with his, and that's where the risk for infection comes. Because your staph present on his skin, if it gets subdermal, gets in a crack or a burn or a cut or whatever, now could be potentially dangerous to him. Okay. I'll talk about this because my mom and she won't care, but she worked in a hospital. It's exactly what happened to her. She had staph infection, yeah, and almost had sepsis. So it's a infection of the blood, and that would have been very bad.
Aren't a lot of athletes now getting staph, or they're talking more about?
Everybody has it. Yeah, it's very common. Yeah. So then, and it's extremely hard to kill. Yeah. So when you have surgery.
And again, that's just the kind of thing that just exists on you right now. So, I mean, we were talking about before, like specifically weaponized things, be it chemical or biological. And this is just a natural part of our world around us.
Can you weaponize staph? Or is that something?
Like, back in the old days, do the blood brother thing, like you each cut your hand, and you like super high five.
We're going to do that after the show.
Now you're blood brothers. Well, in theory, what I have existing on my hand, if I open that wound and then you open yours and we share that, like, I don't have to go get anthrax. Like, I could just infect you right now with MRSA and you could die. Like, just like that. So, I mean, that unfortunately, that is the world we live in. And, like, our assumptions about cleanliness and pathogens aren't really matching up quite well with reality.
Huh.
And it's worth noting that hospitals, like you're talking about Civil War hospitals back in the day, like where they got rooted from, it used to be a place you would go to die. It was not a place you would go to get cured. So if you had some serious like trauma injury or if you were seriously diseased, you went to the hospital so that you weren't with the rest of the healthy population. You would go there, and there were some things they could do for you. There were early surgeries, like the Romans, and the Egyptians, they would do brain surgeries, eyeball surgeries, different things to relieve pressure on the brain and from concussions and head wounds. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, they were developing skills, they were developing knowledge, but you should just go there and die, and that was the end of it. And it was quite a long time before hospitals were a place where you would get cured from a disease as opposed to just a place for you to lay down and moan for a while before you were eventually passed.
Wow, that sucks. Are we talking like hundreds of years ago?
Like early Roman times is what we saw the first actual hospitals as a physical building that was exclusively for medical care.
Mm-hmm.
I think like Florence Nightingale,
yeah.
1800s, started to industrialize, and make it a institution. So, I mean, it's not that long.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still, before 1922, if you had type 1 diabetes, you died. If you weren't able to produce that insulin, that's what type 1 is, your body no longer has that ability, you're dead.
Yeah. There's lots of stuff that's like that,
right.
Just 100 years ago.
So it's all very new technology, really. Yeah. But just in a short amount of time, it's like your phones. In a short amount of time, though, we've made gigantic leaps and bounds.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about. I mean, they're curing AIDS. I mean, babies that have AIDS are being cured. I mean, there's only probably, I think, 3 or 4 that have been documented, but in our lifetime, AIDS may not be a reality.
And there we are making great leaps forward, and they are awesome in a certain extent of where if a baby is born is HIV positive, and they're able to counteract that and fight it, and you're able to cure that kid where that kid does not grow up to have full-blown AIDS. That's an awesome leap forward. However, with all these leaps in technology, we as a people, as a society, however you want to look at it, individuals or groupings, we are not keeping pace with our own advances. So, for instance, like telephone technology, like you mentioned, that's leaping forward. Awesome. It's great. But then look at what we actually do with it. Like kids in middle school are getting arrested for child porn because they're sexting each other at the age of 11 or 12. You know what I mean? And we're just using it to spy on each other. We're using it for all these illicit activities, all these immature, nonsensical things. Like, we could be using all that effort, all that time, all that manpower to doing things like curing AIDS or, flying to Mars, whatever you want to do. But look at the nonsensical stuff we do with the tools at hand. Like, I can go out right now and drive down the highway and watch Honey Boo Boo over a 4G LTE network on my smartphone. And why would you do that? I have no idea. But that's what we do with the tools we have at hand. So we are making these leaps forward. We're making these technological advances. But then we do weird stuff with it, and there's no reason for it. And this is where, like, going back to the anti-vax thing, people have that pushback, and they have that, why don't you try and make me attitude? Because weird stuff happens. Like personally, when I went right before we kicked off, our little stint in the Iraq War, and we shipped out in 2009. This is years into the war, and before we were even allowed to leave the country, we had a series of inoculations. So there we are, standing in a line, because that's the majority of what you do in the Marine Corps is you stand in a line.
You're good at that.
All the time, waiting in queue. So
Can
we
stand in a line right now? Show me how it looks.
I mean, between 2 points.
How many people is a line? You need at least 2?
I think at least 2.
At least 2.
You're a point, I'm a point. We make a good line. I'm saying.
Nice.
So
don't get your MRSA on me, Jesus.
So we're standing in this line, and we get, I think it was 9. 9 injections. So I ask them, because...
all at the same time?
All at the same time.
Okay.
So we don't have medics ourselves because we borrow the Navy's corpsmen. So there's a bunch of corpsmen, and they hate Marines, and they hate questions.
Of course.
So there I am being a Marine, and I'm asking them questions. So now I'm super annoying. So I'm like, so what do we, what's up, Doc? What are we getting today? And they're like, yellow fever, and this and that, and the other thing. I'm like, okay, you named off like 3 things. So what are the other 6? And he goes, well, yellow fever and something. And whatever. I'm like, okay, no, they're like, what are the other 6 ones you're giving us? He's like, okay, go stand in line now. And I'm like, you know what? I don't really want this. I don't know what you're giving me. I'm not cool with it. So we're just not going to. And he's like, no, get in line. You're going to get inoculated. And I'm like, all right, that's fine. You could inoculate if you tell me what you're putting in my body. And he's like, get in line. Like, that was it. And then all of a sudden there's staff around, like staff NCO, staff non-commissioned officers. All of a sudden there's like a staff sergeant and a gunnery sergeant. Like, hey, Marine, what are you doing? Shut your mouth and get in line. So now I knew ahead of time. This is 2009. I knew guys from the early 90s in the original Iraq invasion that were coming home with Gulf War syndrome. And those were the same guys that were told they were given actual like EpiPen injectors in Kuwait. And they're like, all right, everybody punch this into your thigh. And you're like, what's going on, guys? Are we being attacked? Is there chemical agents? They're like, no, you just need to inject this right now. Or you need to take this pill or something. There's various stories from different guys in different areas. So it was always under shady circumstances. They're always asking, why are we doing this? What is this stuff? And they're always told, be quiet, just take it. So you take this stuff, you have no idea what it is, right? And then you get home from Iraq, be it early 90s invasion or be it 2000s invasion, either or, and then you have guys that have issues. They start asking questions. Now, this is correlative. It's not causality. So there's no way I can prove, like, I got injected this day and I have this symptom now. I cannot draw a direct causality line between, or causality. I can correlate them and say, oh, I have this syndrome now and I did this thing back in the day, so in my mind it makes sense. But it's the shady environment and the way it was administered that causes that reaction from people. So in the same way, like, all right, kids get a bunch of vaccines, and also there's a huge rise in autism. It makes parents uncomfortable, where they can't prove it. They're not engineers, they're not doctors, but there's this discomfort level where if they try to resist or they try to ask questions, they immediately get stomped down and they get pushed out. So whereas I got a series of inoculations or injections or whatever the heck they were, I still don't know to this day what they were. On my medical record, it shows that I got 3 shots when in fact I know I got 9, right? So I haven't gotten sick since I've been home. Like, I've had like the sniffle, like my sinuses were inflamed or whatever when the seasons changed.
You literally have not gotten sick
at
all?
I have not gotten sick, like the flu or a terrible cold.
You're a super soldier. It's the super soldier program. You're Captain America.
No, it could be a sheer coincidence.
Sure.
Like, it's been 5 years, so maybe it's just a coincidence I haven't been sick in 5 years.
Uh-huh.
And there's also guys that complain of different syndromes. Like, speaking of flora, guys would get their digestive flora knocked out. So they have terrible, terrible indigestion. And they just are burning holes in their esophagus, and to the point where it's like ulcerative. And they're finding that there is some kind of small bacteria in northern Iraq that exists only there. And all of these soldiers and Marines, everybody's coming back with it. And it's knocking some guys out completely. Where now they're taking like huge steps. They have to change their diet. They have to take medication just so their esophagus literally doesn't ulcer out into a huge acidic mess.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like there's this discomfort with, if you're being told to do something, you're just handed something and you have no knowledge of what it is and whatever, it creates an attitude of discomfort. So even if someone were to come along, explain to me all the things I got, medically prove to me that they were for my benefit and they didn't hurt me at all, like that explanation, that knowledge, that information doesn't exist. It's not there for me. So all there is a gap of, I was told I was not given a choice. Like, I was getting that stuff regardless. And now anything that happens to me after that, now there's that doubt, that lingering doubt of, is something bad happens, was it caused by these injections? Mm-hmm. And that's not a lack of medical, like, understanding or medical knowledge. Like, I fully understand how vaccinations work, but it's just a matter of how the situation happened. So I see that same thing in the anti-vax groups of people, where they look at vaccinations, they look at genetically modified food products, GMOs, and they look at big pharmaceutical companies, and all they see is every time I ask a question or every time I resist a little bit, I'm immediately stomped down. And there's such a visceral reaction on the part of big pharmaceutical companies or groups of doctors. And, everything is in the favor of doctors and pharmaceuticals. You feel like, monetary incentives. It's great for the pharmaceuticals if you inject every single kid that comes along. Like, every time you pop one out, they get to inject it with stuff and get paid for that stuff. Like, it's in their favor that we do all these things, just and not ask questions. We just do it as a matter of course. Like, by de facto, you're just going to get these injections. So if you're that one, like, noisy, wheel that pipes up and says, why are we doing this? And all of a sudden, you just get stomped out. Mm-hmm. Like, social media, doctors, everyone is all of a sudden, like, hating on you and telling you got to be quiet and what a kook you are. It just seems suspicious. And again, it's not like you could prove that there's anything medically wrong with that inoculation, but it just the lingering doubt and suspicion of the way people treat it, and the fact that you're not allowed to ask questions, you're not allowed to be that guy that goes the other way. Like, those are the things that feed into that conspiracy mentality, that maybe there's nothing wrong, but if there's nothing wrong, then why are you trying to, like, silence me so bad? Or why are you trying to play me out to be some kind of a kooky person or a wacko? Like, if I was a wacko, then it would be self-evident. Everyone I talk to would be like, oh, that guy's a wacko. And you wouldn't have to worry about it. So why are you standing next to me pointing the finger saying, everyone look at what a wacko this guy is. Nobody listen to him. Like, forget the guy behind the curtain. Mm-hmm. So there is a self-perpetuating nature of those conspiracy, situations where someone wants to ask a question, they want knowledge, and they're just told, no, sit down, be quiet. Mm-hmm. Like, you're not going to silence the conspiracy theory that way. If you tell someone to sit down and be quiet and just fall in line, like, you're never going to end that doubt. You're actually going to make it worse.
Do you think people just have too much time?
Absolutely.
People just have nothing else to do, and they're like, well, let's find a correlation between this. Yeah.
Start a radio show.
Start a radio show.
Yeah.
Shut up. But if you look hard enough for something, you're going to find it eventually. I mean, if you go out to the woods and look for Bigfoot,
right,
you're going to see a tree and it's going to look like Bigfoot,
right,
or it will actually be Bigfoot. I'm not saying Bigfoot does not exist, but people just seem to be.
But the point's taken, and I see that. Like, if I go to a big pharmaceutical company and I see an engineer, let's just say he had a bad day, like he's got a poor home life, work life was bad, and he's just walking to his car, and I run at him with a microphone, and I'm like, oh, tell me about this inoculation. Like, he's not going to, like, get out of here in that case. Like, why are you assaulting me? I'm trying to get my car. And now I go throw that on YouTube and be like, oh, I caught him.
He denies it.
He wouldn't answer the question. That's pretty much means that he's culpable. Yeah. He's guilty. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, you do see that. You do see people, so, I don't know, it validates their existence if they can see things in the tea leaves.
Mm-hmm. This is just risk and reward, I guess. I mean, if you got to weigh the risk versus the reward, and if there's a 1 in 10,000 chance your kid's going to get autism, or there's a 1 in 5,000 chance your kid's going to get smallpox. I mean, that's a bad example because they don't vaccinate for that anymore. But you get the vaccine. You just do.
Yeah.
I mean, having your kid get autism sucks, but having your kid get, your smallpox again, even though it's bad, having your kid get smallpox and dying, I'd rather have a kid with autism. If you give me a choice of my kid being dead or having autism, I'm picking autism.
And it's worth pointing out that there's been a lot of studies and nothing's correlated getting vaccinated with having autism.
Yeah, we don't want to put that out there. Like, we're not saying
causality-wise. In the broad sense, you could say, like, from this year to this year, we've had more vaccinations, and we've also seen an increase in autism diagnoses. And if you do it broad enough, like I could say, increase in honey boo boo, there's also been an increase in terrorism around the world. So if you phrase it broad enough, yeah, you can correlate it. But there's no medical science. There's no way that you could prove that this particular vaccination has caused autism in this kid. Mm-hmm. Like it just doesn't exist. It's not out there.
Mm-hmm. And I think Mark's example of the military telling you to get 9 shots, and they're only telling you about 3. Huge red flag, calls for concern. Absolutely. When I've gotten vaccines, when my kid have gotten vaccines, there's paperwork on each one. About, at least my doctor, they give you a time frame. I happen to know about the time frame beforehand, but they still give you a piece of paper and says, at your 3-month, at your 6-month, at your 9-month, at your 18-month, 15-month, whatever it is, we're going to give them these vaccines. So first of all, when you go there, you have a sheet of information about what they're injecting into them, why, and the side effects. And the side effects aren't autism. It's mostly like fever, flu-like symptoms, chills, maybe some diarrhea, nausea, vomiting. So there is a lot of paperwork. I don't know. I don't know personally people. I don't know. I don't have time to really know everything about this debate. Like you said, people are basically being told just shut up and have it.
Yeah.
If that's really true, it's completely wrong. I guess I believe it and don't believe it because the medical profession, that would not be, and scientists in general, that's not how they do things.
Right.
But on the other hand, I've seen plenty of opportunities for people to be nice and they're not.
Oh, yeah.
So in hospitals and other situations like this. So I
mean,
can see them saying, just
people take it to the nth level. Like, for instance, there's calls in usually major metropolitan areas like D.C., New York, Philadelphia, like wherever you get a lot of people together. If you are an anti-vax family and people know that, I mean, they take it to the ridiculous level where they'd be like, all right, if you're not going to vaccinate your kid, we should not allow them to go to our school. Like, if you're not going to vaccinate your kid, they're not going to be inoculated or whatever, then don't bring them around my kids. And then they take it to the degree after that. All right, maybe we should charge these parents with neglect because they haven't injected their kids with these vaccinations. Mm-hmm. Like, if it's the point where you got to bring the state in and you're going to have like an armed marshal come in and take a kid away from their family. I'm not saying that this happened.
This has happened?
No. What I'm saying is people vehemently anti-vax people or pro-vax or however you want to say it. They take it to that rhetorical level where they're saying like, well, this is neglect. This is ridiculous. We can't let them do this to those kids. And though there's not been an instance where like you have cops kicking in the door and dragging a kid away and shoving needles in their arm, it's a matter of if even rhetorically you're willing to say that's a representation of neglect or abuse. You know what I mean? It's like, why does it get to that? Like, people take it to that level. And like you said, they just have too much time on their hands if they are getting so involved in someone else's business that they're going to say, oh, these people are neglectful to their kids and they need to do this and they need to do that. And just with the assumption that they have the authority to dictate what people are going to do with their lives. It's just, I mean, you look at, I think Jenny McCarthy was the famous, I mean, you were talking about celebrities, the anti-vax celebrities.
Yeah.
She was the one that originally, made the most headlines at first about saying, I don't vaccinate my kids because of autism, or I don't vaccinate my kids because of autism. So it's like the reaction, especially like internet, social media reaction on that woman in particular has been fairly vile. Now, why would I take my time out of my day to go on some website and then like have a little rant and rave about that particular woman? Like, I don't know her. I don't know anything about her, and I don't care, quite frankly. Like, what exactly was she famous for? Like an MTV show or something?
She's hot. I think that's all it is.
I think she... whatever.
She was on MTV.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So, like, literally no impact on my life, not even worth my time. But at some point, someone's taking time out of their day to go and attack this woman, and it's like, why? Mm-hmm. Like, why is that idea that she's throwing out there so dangerous to you that now you have to take time out of your day to take action to go and smear this woman's reputation? Like, it's just kind of nonsensical. Like, why someone would personalize and internalize her idea.
I think because she has a voice and a stage, and she's very powerful. There's a lot of people that are going to listen to her.
Yeah.
Without any evidence.
Of course.
There might be tens of thousands, millions of kids not vaccinated because they believe her, what she's saying. And it goes back to what you're saying. There are people out there that, they see it on the TV and Honey Boo Boo. I've never seen it, but that's what they do. That's what they're into. That's who they listen to.
That's our next show. Actually, is medical advice from Honey Boo Boo.
Oh, I'd love to get her on the show. It's not going to happen. People are just stupid, I think, is the main point of this.
Unfortunately, some people are just easily influenced. I think let's listen for a second. Come on, let's bring it down.
Let's bring it right down.
Don't listen to Jenny McCarthy. Go to your doctor, talk to your doctor, get informed, do some research on your own. Don't listen to anybody out there besides yourself. I mean, look into yourself and say, if I want to get my kid vaccinated, get them vaccinated. If you don't. Don't blame Jenny McCarthy or endorse Jenny McCarthy or anybody else.
I'm all about informed decisions.
Yeah.
And my thing is, if I'm going to put the time in and I do the research and I get the advice from doctors, from, the engineer that works at that chemical company, like whatever, if I take all those steps and then I make my decision, the last thing I want is someone to try and jump in at the last minute and stop me from making that decision. I put the time to do the research. I did my due diligence, and now I want to do it this way. Mm-hmm. The last thing I want is for someone to try and interject and stop me. So with that in mind, then I'm going to go ahead and say, all right, if you do your research and you choose the exact opposite of the way I chose, I'm out of just respect, man to man, person to person, I am not going to try and intercede and stop you from making that choice. And it's that mutual respect that we're missing in this entire conversation. Not internally here in our show, but as, social media, mass media. Oh, that hurts me. But I mean, the point is people are always, like, their knee-jerk reaction is, we have to make a law that says this. We have to have things that force people to do that. How about you make an informed decision for yourself and your family, and you go after it. You do the common sense things that need to get done to keep your family safe, and then you stay out of the next family's business. You don't try to intercede. You don't try to put laws in the books. They're going to say, if you make a choice different from mine, you're a neglectful parent, or you're abusive, or et cetera. You have to lose custody now. That's ridiculous.
So as far as I know, there's no legal recourse. If you don't get your kid vaccinated, you're not going to get in trouble. Besides not being allowed in school at a certain time or being socially outcast, there's no legal ramifications if you don't get your kid vaccinated.
In terms of being prosecuted as a neglectful or abusive parent, no. But there are those social restrictions where, as a private institution, a school can tell your child or you as the parent that they're not allowed to participate because of the liability issues.
Like public schools and
private charter colleges.
So basically, your kid's screwed. They can't go to school until they get vaccinated. Is it religious freedom? Is that? I mean, if they're doing it for religious reasons, you can't not.
Well, that's an interesting point. If you make a choice, and I tell you that's a ridiculous choice, but then I make a choice and I say it's because of religion, why would a third party look at both of us and say that one is a valid choice and one isn't? Mm-hmm. Like, does the fact that it has to do with religion make a difference to anybody? Why can't it just be my choice? If I'm going to
I think people just use religion as a cover sometimes. Like if you say I can't wear a hat to school, and then I say it's because I'm of religion, then you can't. Your hands are tied. You can't tell me to take the hat off.
Well, it's unfortunate that you have to run the religion as a safeguard. Like
people are scared to talk about that kind of stuff.
Well, it is like the third rail. You can't tell people you're not allowed to do something if it's their religion. Mm-hmm. But why should it be to that degree? Why can't you just be yourself, do what you want to do, and be allowed to do that? You shouldn't have to go and run for the safety of religious cover.
Yeah. Because Jim can wear a hat and I can't.
Yeah, why
can't I wear a hat? Well, it's because he's whatever.
Why are we worried about people wearing hats?
I want to wear a hat. Why can't I wear a hat?
Why can't you?
Because you said I can't. The teacher says I can't wear a hat in school, but Jim gets to wear a hat because he's a spaghetti monster enthusiast.
Yeah, exactly.
That's bullshit. I want to wear a hat. Well, then I got to join the Church of Spaghetti Monster.
Yeah.
Wear a hat. It's like either everybody wears a hat or nobody wears a hat.
Well, who's trying to control headwear and why?
When I was in school, you couldn't wear hats. And I went to a private Christian school. I couldn't wear hats.
I went to a public school and couldn't wear hats. Why are we so concerned about headgear?
Well, we can move on from headgear. Sunglasses. what part?
No, but my point being is why is there rules about headgear, and then why are you forcing someone who has a choice, a personal choice they want to make about their hat? Mm-hmm. Why are you forcing them to run for religious cover and run for that religious freedom, like that buyout, that get out of jail free card? Like it shouldn't be to the point where you have to cry foul over religious offenses just so you could make your own choices.
Yeah, definitely.
What Mark is saying is America has become, you lose a lot of freedoms and liberties, and that's nonsense. You should wear a hat,
Yeah.
I mean, the people that founded this country, I don't think that's what they had in mind.
Hat rules?
They would always think that people could wear hats whenever they want.
People have weird ideas about the way our country was founded. Like the reason we had religious freedoms when we were founded is because in the 13 colonies, they actually were segregated colonies. Like there was very, very Catholic cities and there was very, very Protestant cities. Mm-hmm. And then you have like Quakers and Shakers and everybody else that came along. So they realized real quick, all right, if I'm going to go one city over and I don't want to get beaten in the streets, I better have some kind of mutual respect here where I know if I'm a Catholic going into a Protestant colony, I'm going to be respected as an individual. Like they had the Continental Congress where they all got together and decided, we're going to break away. For those representatives to be respected when they crossed those lines between the colonies, there had to be an understanding of, all right, I'm a devout Catholic, you're a devout Protestant. We're going to be cool with each other, and we're going to respect each other as elected officials of our colonies, and we're going to do this. So, yeah, it was a great product that came out of that, which is religious freedom, but that came from religious hate and religious segregation. So there are people that want to look back with this false nostalgia over America and be like, oh, yes, from the very beginning, America was a very strict Protestant or very strict Catholic beginning, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not true. We were very diverse, we were very segregated, and there was a whole lot of hate going on. And out of that, you had a few individuals that had the foresight and the common decency to create the idea of mutual respect.
And we can bring it back to smallpox with the Indians and Native Americans. Native Americans getting the smallpox blankets thrown on them by the early Americans. with that, we've been getting up the wrap up hand signal.
Well, hold on.
Okay.
1 second.
Hold on 1 second.
So I told Matt about a video I saw
Yes.
a few weeks ago, and he was cringing from the first word out of my mouth. So even though you can't see the video, I would like you to watch it.
Okay.
So everybody can hear your reaction.
A live reaction here.
Yeah. Hey,
Do we need sound? Do you want to listen to? Is it a sound important?
He does describe a little bit what's going on. It might not hurt. There's not a lot of audio, but you can probably even fast forward a little bit because the whole thing's fairly long.
It's a 9-minute video.
Yeah, just scroll along until you see the first incision, and then let's see where we're at. Yeah, so he's gonna. I mean, you can.
Oh, that's gross. All right. If you're playing along at home, we're starting the video at 1 minute and 28 seconds in. I'll put a link on the website, which is question-everything.net.
The title is Big Kidney Stone Size of Big Hen Egg.
That's gross. It's really big. I watched just a little bit of it already.
This is an open pylotomy.
Oh, Lord.
And this is when you have so many. I think this is calcium.
So what's this tool he's using here? Is this a drill? Is this a laser?
No, that's like it's almost like a soldering iron. It
Okay.
solders as it cuts, so you're going to reduce the amount of bleeding.
What part of this is the side of the abdomen?
This is your like posterior. So anatomically, the posterior is your backside.
Okay.
Maybe 12 inches up from your buttocks, just over top of your kidneys. Okay, and they're going in. They've made a horizontal incision.
Uh-oh.
Clamps. Need some clamps.
Oh, what's he doing now?
So now he's found the 12th rib, and he's scraping the meat off of the 12th rib.
Call the cops. He's attacking this person.
The 12th rib is in the way of the kidney that he needs to make an incision on to remove the stone. The stone, when you see the stone, it's the size of. There's different ways to get rid of stones. They can do like a shockwave therapy that'll break up the stone, and you'll just pee it out.
Pee.
This one, though, when you see, you'll know. There's no way that this is going to get broken up.
Oh, what's that?
Well, these are all just
It's a rake.
different.
It's a rake.
That's a medical term, rake. No, it's not.
That's way too big.
It's different as surgical tools. He's going to pull the rib up with that.
Oh, Lord.
See, the beautiful thing about this, whenever I watch these, I always forget how rough doctors can be. You know, when I was learning like the few basic things about medicine, I always thought like you don't want to hurt the person, you don't want to do any more harm.
They cut something.
You see somebody, you get a medical professional that knows what they're doing. They're just grabbing.
Snips.
He just pulled the rib up. Now he's going to take it off with the pliers.
See, these guys just grab hunks of human flesh and just whip it around.
Oh yeah, that's why you're so sore when you get out.
I think I've been to that club before.
But you kind of have to. So right here, he's got the 12th rib with the pliers, and he just broke it off.
There you go. There's your.
That's the
rib.
souvenir. They make a necklace out of that on your
Oh.
outpatient.
Is it extra or is that included with the price?
You get charged for a whole thing.
Bonus.
Oh, the sons of bitches.
So right now he's palpitating. It just means touching the kidney.
You're just
Fancy
jamming
words.
his sausage fingers in there.
Yeah.
I
There's
could
a-
be a doctor. I could do that.
Yeah, the thing is, it's kind of like someone who handles a baby for the first time. They think they're made of glass and they'll break, but
Yeah.
they don't. You really do kind of have to be kind of rough to get.
I did
in there
hear
and
about a
see.
disorder where a baby was made of glass, and he did break. It's very insensitive of
Yeah,
you.
I think that's Humpty Dumpty you're thinking
Oh,
of.
right, the Hungarian case from 1914.
Sure.
Yeah, I've read that.
What's that? Oh, same thing. We've seen that already.
More soldering iron going on.
It's a wood burning tool from you got from Joanne Fabrics. He had a coupon, 50% off.
So I've been in an OR room where there's soldering. There's a technical term, but they're soldering so much that the smoke, you can smell the smoke.
What's it smell like?
Burning
burning
flesh.
flesh.
Yeah.
I don't know what burning flesh smells like.
It's
Hey, after
unmistakable.
the show, we'll figure it
If
out.
I make a chicken cutlet, does it smell the same?
No,
Yeah. Right.
I got a lighter and you got a hand.
No, Mark has better hands than me.
I have magnificent hands.
Yeah, he's a pretty boy.
All right now he's feeling the kidney. He's about to pull it up to where you can see it. He's feeling the stone. He's actually feeling that he's got it in an area where he's isolated the stone.
Oh, tongue
You got a
depressor.
retractor, yeah. Right there's the kidney.
Pretty.
I think we can monetize this.
The surgery?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they charge for the surgery.
We're name it Romancing the Stone.
Oh,
That was an 80s joke.
I like that.
We'll just let that one go.
Okay, I'll let that out. We'll bleep it.
How are you feeling so far, Matt? You okay? Nothing's coming up?
Not yet. I think. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm kind of putting myself out of it.
Really,
I think it's
it's-
like a chicken cutlet.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, see, it's not so bad, during surgery. You're draped.
So why is there not a lot of blood? I figured there'd be. Is it because of the cauterizer?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thought
Yep.
there'd
And
be
there's
more
some blood there, but they're pausing and toweling and suctioning, but a lot of the cauterizing cutting tools.
It's like a lightsaber.
minimizes
That's
a
what a
lot of the
lightsaber would do.
bleeding.
Absolutely.
Yeah. For people who haven't seen Star Wars, get a life. Watch Star Wars. I'm not going to explain everything to you. I got some of those.
Those seem like obnoxiously large paddles to be holding back the skin.
Well, it takes a lot of force, because it's always trying to come back together. You just got to get a little bit of the fascia, scar tissue away from there.
So you can just make holes in kidneys and they just close up and
Well,
they're
he
good to
hasn't
go?
made a hole in the kidney yet.
Not yet. No.
Nope. Trust me, you'll know when he does.
We'll get there.
Right here. Gonna make an incision right here in the renal part.
God bless you. You try to hide that. It didn't work.
Didn't work.
Yeah.
These are high quality mics.
Watch.
Pick
This
up
is the best
everything.
part.
These are
Watch.
10.
If you've never seen what they call pylo or big kidney stone,
I haven't.
so they're the yanker suction. You see right there where they're sucking up the blood.
Is this kind of stuff you're going to do?
I mean, I could. It's
But
kind of boring after a
just holding
Few
a piece of
times.
skin back.
yeah.
It's an alien. Oh. Whoa, did you hear the doctor? Whoa.
Yeah.
That's- All right, now let's talk about what causes that and what I can do to stop that from happening.
Well, when we were talking earlier about, previous to the modern medicine era, the Greeks, was Socrates, I think, his famous quote was, "Let thy food be thy medicine." It was all preventative measures.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that foods and stuff, certain foods were good for you and some weren't, to be healthy, and that hasn't changed. It's always about hydration status and food. It's always about what you're putting in your body.
So this is caused by somebody eating something.
Yeah, there's three main causes of stones. You have, boy, you're putting me on the spot. You got uric
There'll
acid.
be a test after this.
So like you ever hear of gout?
Yeah,
Like
it's
fried
deli
foods and
meat or
stuff?
something.
Yeah, like fried foods.
Fried foods.
It's meat mostly, like organ meats and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
There's an accumulation of the acid in the body, and then there's calcium, and one other that I can't remember at the time. And a lot of this has to do with they don't drink enough water to completely flush the kidneys.
Yeah. I'm just looking at gross videos now. I'm sorry.
What is that? A pig's ear? What in the world is that?
I think that's just
It's
a dude's ear.
No, it's a human's ear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just there's like the inside, where you Q-tip. There's little blackheads, and they're removing them.
Oh, it's disgusting.
You just push on them.
Okay, so I'm sorry. We're talking. I don't want kidney stones. I don't want blackheads either, but I think I do have them.
Yeah, a lot of it, like I
Okay.
said, is
Stop.
well, I mean, my lifestyle. Okay, so through the evolution of humanity, we didn't eat meat all day, every day.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard to get it. It was hard to score. You had to go kill something. But now we've, there's farms and everything. It's much easier to get to.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't mean the inside of you can handle it.
I can handle it. No, I'm just.
And even like what's happened to me recently with grains.
Yeah.
It just reaches a level that is unhealthy. And I don't even, I didn't think I was doing anything unhealthy, but it obviously reached an unhealthy level in my body.
Mm-hmm.
So it's always about balance. And you just got to, you just try to stay hydrated, drink fluids. The gout and certain things like that's like from a lot of fried food and a lot of meat. stuff like that.
So, guys, don't eat fried food, or you'll have a kidney stone the size of a fist.
That was the size like an avocado seed is what they just popped out
Disgusting.
of that guy.
Did you have something to say?
I was cheating and going through Google to find the causes of kidney stones.
Oh, cheater!
I'm way after the fact now.
Well, I know. See, I can't. Okay, so definitely uric acid, calcium, and then the third would be soft drinks contain phosphorus. It's whatever that third part is. I think it's a component of phosphorus. Okay, phosphorus will contribute to the calcification of. And there's just little, basically flakes that accumulate. When they accumulate, that's where the stone comes from. Most happens lithotrophy, but they can shockwave. They put you on a bed. They shoot waves, concentrated waves through you. It breaks them up. You
become the
pee 'em
Incredible
out.
Hulk, right?
You know, nothing is not a big deal. No. But sometimes they get turned into this.
Hey guys, go ahead.
So in a healthy body, those flakes and those things will just be washed out naturally. Just get through uric acid, urea, whatever.
You know, I'm not an expert on this. I think that there might be some renal failure associated with that, and that the nephrons, like the inner parts of your kidneys, aren't getting washed, and maybe they accumulate some there. That's essentially what your kidneys do. They're filtering all the time. So there maybe you got some, dysfunction there.
So what you should do, so you don't get kidney stones the size of avocado pit seeds, whatever they're called, go to naturebox.com. Only eat food from NatureBox. But before you go to naturebox.com, just go to our website, which is question-everything.net. Go to the sponsor page, click on the link for NatureBox, save $5 off your first NatureBox, which is basically some awesome food for free.
Make informed decisions.
Yeah, go through some research. We're going to start wrapping it up now. I just got to make some mentions of, I talked about NatureBox already. Just want to thank other people, everybody who donates money to us. We thank you. Click the donate button. At least donate something if you liked any part of this show. If you didn't like any of the show, you hated it completely, donate $50,000 and we will go away completely forever. You'll never hear from us again. But a year later, we'll come back and do it again.
Just to spite you.
Just to spite you, because you're a jerk. But we love your money. Ting.com, click on the button on the sponsor page, save $25 off any product you buy from Ting and the first month of service, or first month of service. You're not going to get $25 off both. Amazon banner, click on that, buy some cool stuff, tell us what you bought, and we'll talk about it on the air and make fun of you. Or talk good things about you. You never know. We take Bitcoins. I don't even really know what those are, but I was told we should put a button on the website to take Bitcoins. So give us some Bitcoins. Thanks everybody for coming around to check out the show. You can contact us on the website. Fill out the contact form. Send us a message. Tell us what you thought. Get us on Twitter. We are at question. Question what? I forgot.
Question net.
Question net at question net. So put that in Twitter. Say hi to us. Say we suck. Tell us how cool we are. We will see you next time. Bye bye.
Good job, fellas.